Hello everyone, welcome to update number 10 of the project taking Toolbox for Creativity to Kickstarter. And yes, this is a bit of a milestone. It's the update number 10. That doesn't mean that it's week number 10. You know that we started with one updates per week, but then, I was kind of falling behind. I didn't have a lot to say at the beginning. And then I decided probably to keep you entertained and engaged is probably, and to give you meaningful information, it is probably to do a 2-week update. So, and now we are on update number 10. And I do have a few things to mention, some other milestones that I reached, and I'm really happy about it. So let's talk about them. So the first thing is, when creating a game for education, and if you happen to also be creating a physical game, probably you're going to be focused on the development, the costs, and the company selection and all of this of the actual physical game. And you're right in the sense that there is where the large bulk of your spending will be on developing that game. But there are other costs that are equally important and cannot be avoided. And even though they are not as big as developing the actual physical game, they are substantial. And when you add them up, then the balance tilts a little bit to the other side. And my point is that if you have not taken this in consideration, this can derail your project. So without further ado, let's talk about this cost. First, the most important, as I said, most important in the sense that it's the biggest, the development of the actual prototype. Not the prototype, the actual game, the physical game. I assume this applies as well to digital games. I do not know 100%, but I would say it also, you have to take in consideration the development costs. And if you ignore the others, you could suffer. So let's say, for now, let's talk about the development of the physical game. In my case, Toolbox for Creativity has a physical component, and I'm looking for different companies to, create this, give me quotes of how much it will take to produce, difference in materials. And I have to say, when I started doing my research on how to develop these type of games, physical board games, a lot of people pointed in the direction of Panda game manufacturer. And I was a bit not 100% sure. I was thinking, and this is me sort of a conspiracy theories, that when everybody tells you to do something, there's something fishy about it. But anyhow, so I approached Panda game manufacturer. I approached other companies. And what I really want to say now is the quality of service that I have got so far with Panda game manufacturer by far supersedes that of other companies. In many other companies, I send emails, I don't even get a reply. After a second email saying, did you get my first email? They say, oh yeah, sure, we got it. We are working on your quote. I'm waiting for 3 months for some of those companies to reply to my second email. So I know they completely ignore me. I also know that for some game manufacturers, dealing with Kickstarter is a bit of a pain in the neck, because Kickstarter, we are asking the companies to give us a quote. They have to spend, time and essentially money from the employees that are working on creating this quote. And we may not realize the project, because if we don't get funded, then through Kickstarter, then we cannot, develop the game. And I know all of that. The thing is, if the companies are not willing to work with Kickstarters, they should just say it, And if they say, listen, we don't know who you are, we don't deal with Kickstarters, look for another company, thank you very much. It's much better that way, at least in my view, for me as a developer of games who is looking for quotes, than just have me sending quotes and sending emails and trying to contact companies that really don't want to work with me, or people in my circumstances, which is first time Kickstarter and first time developer of a game. And anyway, rant over. So back to Panda. And so I started getting my quotes, and back and forth. The first quote was a bit too high due to my own requirements of the game. So we are now trying to make the game more streamlined and reduce the costs. In the middle of all this, something happened, and this something is that two of the major manufacturers of components, of cardboard components in China, merge, creating a monopoly. Of course, it happens right now. And this created a spike of the cost of the products, and this is affecting now the quotes that game manufacturers are giving us, the people wanted to produce these games. Just 1 second, I need to clear my throat. Perfect. So lesson learned from all of this is, if something can go wrong, something will go wrong, and you need to allow for this in your plans, or you need to think how to bounce from these kind of delays, because they will happen. So in my case, even with the most trustworthy and responsive game manufacturers, there was a delay on giving me a quote because of this situation in China, which I presume it will, it's hard to predict. Of course, it's very hard to predict. And I'm not saying that something will happen again in future of this magnitude or similar to this, but something will happen, and this will, delay your projects. What I'm saying is, plan, take in consideration risks, understand how to bounce back from those risks, understand that if you have a hard date in which things need to be done, what will happen if that's something along the line, on the critical path, as we call it in project management, is delayed. So these are things you need to plan, decisions you need to make, and it's better if you cannot rehearse in your head, or much better if you rehearse on paper or on your computer, as a matter of fact, how to adapt or how to respond to these risks that are going to derail your project. So that's it regarding the production of the actual physical game. So I told you that there are two more things that we need to consider when it comes to sources of spending. One, developing the game. Second, distribution. And this is really important. So you need to understand how your game is going to move around the world, all the way from China, because most likely it will be produced in China, to the distribution centers, to your backers. So I went through the emails and the recommendations, I mean the posts and the information that is available from Jamie Stegmaier and Joe Slack, two people who are very, very active on sharing information on how to manufacture games and how to do it through Kickstarter. Just making sure my computer is still active. And they're excellent, and they provide a lot of information. So I started contacting people from distribution centers, and I have been in touch with one or two. And it's important to understand how this works, the costs associated with it, how much you're going to charge for the distribution, to move the parcel from one distribution center to another, to the location of your backers. Bear in mind that your backers can be in close proximity to the distribution center, or they can be very far. Some countries have different rules and regulations regarding the import of goods, and you need to take in consideration VAT. All of this needs to be taken in consideration. You need to take it in consideration, so you don't have last-minute decisions that are going to impact either your budget or your customers, your backers. And it's not a good idea to make the backers angry. So production of the game, as in development of the game, distribution, and the third one is prototyping your game. Of course, when you hear me say this, and if you have done this before, you go like, yeah, sure, who is not thinking about prototyping? Well, let me tell you, a lot of people are not thinking about it. I wasn't really thinking about it at the beginning. I was thinking about it, but I thought prototyping meant sort of a low fidelity prototype. I was doing it with a cardboard and different pieces from games that I was creating, and that's not really how it works. At least that's not how it works in Kickstarter, because when we go to Kickstarter, we want to see flashy images. We want to see what the game looks like. We want to see the pieces. We also want to see a good quality video. And if we go to the outcome, which is the people want to see the video, but let's step back a few steps and try to understand what do we need in order to come up with a video that's going to make people, back us. First, the prototype needs to exist, and it cannot be a low fidelity prototype. It needs to be as close as possible as the game you want to sell, bearing in mind that this game has not been produced because you don't have the money from the backers. So it's kind of a funny situation here. So what do? Of course, you take money from your pockets and you start investing on developing a prototype, something that I have done. So I contacted a company. I am physically located in Krakow, and I contacted a company in Germany, and I bought some parts for producing the prototype that I want. Everything was going so far so good, and then it comes the issue of ship to and bill to. So ship to was Krakow, bill to was in Ireland. What happened? My parcel went all the way to Ireland, and then it had to be returned to Germany, and now is on its way here. Should be here either today or tomorrow. I assume it's tomorrow because it's already a little bit late in the day for today's delivery. My point again, whatever will happen, whatever can happen will happen. So again, this is one more delay that I got on the production of the prototype. So I told you that we had to go back a few steps. So number one is actually producing a prototype that is as close as possible as the game you want to sell. So I bought physical, real pieces from board games, so it looks solid, like a solid game. When pictures get taken, when people interact with it, it feels like a real board game that they're using. Second, once you have those pieces, you need to start also thinking about your arts and graphics. Again, this is another cost that we are asking, backers on Kickstarter to give us their money and their support so we can pay for these services. Yet again, we need them beforehand, because when you buy your elements for prototyping, they are going to be blank, most likely, and you probably want them to be blank because you can put your art on it, and then the game has your colors, your logo, it has all the information you want. So in this case, I am working with Victor, a graphic designer, and he is creating some pretty interesting concepts for me. So let's have a look at some of them right now and talk about us as well. Okay, all right. So this is the first design of the box. We worked with 4 designs. After looking at them, we decided, okay, let's trim it down. Actually, at the beginning, there were 5 designs. We decided to trim it down to 3. I think this, even if we go back a little bit. So here, this was the end. I ended up with 3 designs. I called them A, B, and C. And I will tell you why in a minute, but let's look at the designs one by one. So the first one is this one here. And I liked the colors. I thought it was a bit busy. Nonetheless, I liked it, and that's why it's here on the final lists. And okay, this is design number 2, or design B as I call this. You can see a bit of the difference. You can see the curves and the lines interacting with each other, and probably visually that's what attracted me to it. And this was number C, or design C. And I wasn't quite sure what to think about this one. Some things about it I liked and some things I didn't. So what I did, and I suggest you do too, and this is a way to engage people as well as a way to get feedback, is I posted on Facebook, on LinkedIn and social media, Facebook, and I asked what was people's opinion about the designs. And I have to say, it wasn't so easy to get feedback. At the beginning, people was just giving me likes and kind of ignoring the post. But again, this is down to me not knowing or using techniques for, social media posts really well. So I took a step back and I said, come on, let's do what the theory says. And I created an engaging post. I still wanted feedback, but I tagged people and I actively sought feedback. And the result was completely different. Then I started getting results and answers from the people that I tagged, obviously. Not all, majority of them, but even people that I didn't tag when the post started to get some traction and some likes and some comments, other people went in and also gave their opinion. And I suggest as well you do this, tag people, make it about them, not so much about you, and that should give you the information that you want. So that was the first iteration of creating the design for the boxes. We went through a second and third iteration. The one we're looking here at the screen right now is after Victor, the graphic designer working with me, took my feedback and created as well some further concepts for cards in the game. This game that I'm creating uses a lot of white space, but still we want to put a bit of color because we want people to be engaged when they receive the materials. Something that we have done throughout the game from the beginning by looking at even the color palette is trying to be as colorblind friendly as possible. It's not always possible because colorblind is not just one condition. It means there are, I think it's 4 different types of color blindness, from very mild to very severe, where people only see gray. So anyway, when it is not that severe, one easy thing that you can do that people recommend is working with yellow and blue. And that's what we have been trying to do. Work as much as possible with yellow and blue, reduce other colors that are not so colorblind friendly, like green. And yeah, so we are working that, doing that. And this is design A, back again on a further iteration. This is design B. By the way, through the posts on social media, majority of people liked B. So this is the one we are looking at. Some people also gave good comments about A, but I have to say, C, unfortunately, made a lot of people confused, a bit anxious. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know if they liked or hated the sort of bubbles and squares connecting with each other. So it caused so much, I suppose, uncertainty that for that reason, after counting the votes and the comments, I would say C was the least favorite, B was the most favorite, and A is there close to B. Okay, one more cost that goes into the prototyping, and this is copywriting. Creating the prototype most likely also involves creating some form of instructions. And even when you are working with social media, when you are creating, for example, the posts that you are sharing on LinkedIn and social media, and if you're going to release any type of information regarding your product, it's a good idea that goes through copywriting. And the more the information is related to the product, in the sense that, say, for example, you want to share a screen or a screenshot of the rule book, or you want to share a screen of, let's say you're working with a game that has cards, and the cards, of course, they probably have graphics, but they have a bit of text and sometimes instructions, and you are sharing this on social media because this is going to be part of the final product. Make sure that you are already using a copywriter, because something that makes people lose faith on your product and on your ability to develop a professional product is grammar mistakes. And it becomes a little bit more kind of important that we pay attention when the language that you are publishing the game is not your first language. In my case, even though I'm Irish because I lived there a long time, and even though 99% of my daily communications are in English, English is not my first language. And for that reason, I still make mistakes when I'm typing, when I'm tired, when I'm typing fast. I'm tired. So this is another cost that you also need to take in consideration for the prototyping. Again, remember, all of these are costs that you are incurring. These are costs that you need to pay before getting funded on Kickstarter or whichever platform for crowdfunding you are using. All right, so we spoke about the production of the physical elements of the prototype. We spoke about the graphics which are needed, copywriting, and another one which is the creation of your landing page. This is where people are gonna go before they go to Kickstarter. This is where they're gonna go. They're gonna see a bit of information about the game. They are going to sign for the newsletter. So let's have a look now at my landing page, which I'm trying to reduce the cost by creating the landing page myself. So let's have a look at it. Let's show it to you, and hopefully as well I get a bit of feedback. All right, so here we are. First of all, the domain name. So it is Toolbox for Creativity. Again, unfortunately, these are things that you need to take in consideration when you are going to be having a landing page, which is you need to have a domain name. The domain needs to be hosted somewhere. So this already two costs that you need to take in consideration. And third, the development of the actual, landing page. There are many ways to do that yourself right now. It depends on your skills and it depends on your time, a lot of things. So in my case, I decided to give it a go and do it myself. So what I'm doing is I'm using some of the graphics that were already provided by Victor, my graphic designer. I kind of, in this screen, as you can see, I put them on the backgrounds, these kind of shapes that are taken from box B. Remember the ones that are kind of a splashes of color intersecting straight lines. So I decided to incorporate those splashes here in the background. I put them with a bit of a Gaussian blur, so they are not so strong. And I put at the front stuff, images, graphics that I want people to actually look at when they're looking at my page. On the left and on the right, I put examples of how Toolbox for Creativity was used by people testing it and by students. These examples that you can see there, this is not what the box that I'm designing at the moment. Well, you saw the samples. This is not what they look, because these were really kind of low fidelity prototypes that still work, but they were not as visually engaging as the final products that I have developed. In the middle, we have here the data collection template. And as you can see, it has a GDC at the top. This is not my data collection. This is just an image. You cannot click anywhere. And this is just an image that I took from GDC because I was looking at different pages that had some form of data collection page. And the idea was that I wanted to take ideas. So I did look at some of them. And I have to say, the actual data collection from GDC, I thought it was brilliant. Clear, it does what it should do, and that's why I took a screenshot and I put it here. Obviously, as I start working further on the development of my landing page, I will remove this image and I will put in my own landing page that connects to MailChimp, so when people go there and put their information, automatically fits into my MailChimp. So anyhow, that's where we are. Let's scroll down a little bit, and as you can see now, there's still lots of lorem ipsum lorem ipsum here, and the idea is to use this as a placeholder. So on the left, I will have a picture of Toolbox for Creativity. Again, even though this picture is one of those provided by Victor, still is just an idea. I'm not sure which one will I use. And then I will replace the lorem ipsum with information about Toolbox for Creativity, how it works, what it does, stuff like this. We scroll down, and then there is another section. Probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you, and this is a sort of carousel of pictures passing by, and what I will put in there are oh my god, I forgot the actual name. When people review your products and they give you a sort of feedback, there is a word for it which I can't remember. So let me see. All right, so I actually had to go to WordPress to find out the correct name of this tool that I wanted to use, and it's called a testimonial. And what it is, letting people interact with the tool, letting people test it, and then, asking them to give a testimonial. So in here, what I will do is I will collect their testimonials. I will put their picture with their permission. This is the people who are giving me the testimonials, the wording with whatever they're saying about the game, and then it's going to swipe from, in this case, right to left, and let people who visit the site, the landing page, see these testimonials about these professionals using Toolbox for Creativity. And finally, here, there will be, at the moment you don't see it, you don't see it because I haven't put anything in there, but in between the testimonials and all of these logos, there will be a title saying organizations, companies that we have interacted with, collaborated with, and where you can find our research. So the idea is that by looking at this, people will feel a bit more confident about the research that is behind Toolbox for Creativity. And this is not made up. Actually, you can see there are two European universities. We can see Trinity College and the University of Economics, Krakow. And these are two universities that I have collaborated with in order to create Toolbox for Creativity, in order to test it, in order to develop it further. We also can see organizations such as Gamification, Board Games with Education, Ludogogi, XP University, Professor Game, and these are places, organizations, events as well, because sometimes they are like all of them combined, where I have shown my research. So these are not live links. It's not you can click on them and go and see the research that I'm posted. But if you Google my name, or if you Google Toolbox for Creativity, it shouldn't take you more than a couple of scrolls to find out our research published in these places. And finally, I also have their ResearchGate and TDX. ResearchGate is a place where a book regarding gamification, I would say 80% of the book is in Polish because it was published here in Krakow by the University of Economics Ireland, but I contributed by writing the first chapter. So the first chapter of the book is in English, is mine. You can find it in ResearchGate. The rest of the book is in Polish. I do believe there's one more article in English, but you need to know that majority of it is in Polish. And on TDX, I gave a TEDx talk, and I don't know why I'm calling it TDX, TEDx. I gave a talk. The talk is recorded as well, so if you type TEDx plus my name, Eric Agudelo, you will find it, and I hope you enjoy it. The talk was showing preliminary results of the experiments using Toolbox for Creativity with over 90 students of the University of Economics Krakow. So that's it. That was the landing page. And do let me know your feedback. Do let me know what you think about the colors, the graphics, anything, All right. And one final cost. Well, one final for now. I'm not saying that these are all the costs regarding creating your prototype, but at least it's the last one on my list. The last meaningful substantial cost is actually creating the video. Remember when we started talking about the cost of prototyping, I started with the video and then we went back and to see different things. So the video is the number one thing on your Kickstarter. When people go there, if you don't have a video, I don't know exactly what the statistics are, but I think it's a big difference when people are able to see videos of how games and products actually work, whereas products in Kickstarter or other social media crowdfunding pages that do not have videos. So in order to create the video, you need the prototype, you need to have some graphics, you need to the art and graphics. So these things I mentioned that I'm doing, you need to have them in order to produce the video. And again, these are extra costs because most likely you will want to hire a company that does the recording for you, because trying to do it with your own mobile, trying to do it with your own camera may work, but it may not, and you do not want to spend time and effort and waste this opportunity when you are actually getting people together to play your game and to use your products, especially now during COVID. I know this hopefully will not apply in the next months, but for the past year and right now, it is extremely difficult to get people together in order to test your product. That's another problem that I'm going through and trying to solve it. But let's say you do manage to get a company to do the recording at a price that you can afford. Let's say you manage to get people to test your a game, you go to an office space, you go to your own house or apartment, you prepare the area, you prepare the play session, everything goes well, and you are recording it as well in the case that you choose to do it with your own mobile or camera. Sorry, and there's a mistake in this case. You don't really hire the company to do the recording, because I'm talking about what would happen if you do it yourself. So you get people, you get the location, you get the lights, you use your own camera and mobile. And then after all of this, taking in consideration how difficult it is during COVID, then the video, it doesn't look well. It doesn't look amazing when you put it on, YouTube, and when you start testing it. It doesn't look good when you put it on your landing page on Kickstarter. So that's what I'm saying. This is, again, one choice you need to make. If you go for quality that costs you money, or you go for lesser quality and you do it yourself. And it all depends on the skills of the team developing the projects. If you have people who can do a bit of a web page design, they know how to use WordPress, excellent. They can do that. That's one less cost. If you have somebody who can do graphics and art and stuff like this, excellent. You are reducing costs that way. But bear in mind that to know a little bit about graphics is not the same as being a graphic designer. So it is always a decision you need to make, spending money going for professionals or doing it yourself within the team, and to see if the quality is what you're looking for or is good enough. So those are decisions you need to make. It depends on your budget. It depends on what you want to achieve. In my case, I am a one-man band, in the sense that I'm running this myself, and I'm trying to hire people to work with me in the project. I already hired the graphic designer Victor, and now I am looking for a copywriter. I have a person in mind, it's not confirmed, but other than that, all the activities from regarding the Kickstarter are done by me, and then it can become overwhelming. So then you need to delegate, and that's it. I think it was a bit of a long update, but I told you this one, the number 10, was a good one. I waited probably over 2 weeks to give you this one, but a lot of good things happen. So recap very quickly. When you are working on your product, there are 3 main sources of spending that you need to consider. One, the most obvious one that we think about, is actually developing the products that we want to sell on Kickstarter. In the case of games, in the case of board games, it is the actual board game, all right? So you contact your company, that the company that's going to manufacture it, you know how much it will cost, so on and so forth. Second one, distribution. You need to take in consideration how this is going to be distributed. You need to take in consideration VAT and other taxes that may apply. Third, the creation of the prototype that is going to allow you to do all these amazing things that lead to the creation of the video that's going to be on your landing page, and it's going to be on your Kickstarter landing page, and it will allow you to engage with users and backers. So thank you for watching. It was a long update. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any comments, please let me know, and do please share these updates, because you know that when it comes to crowdfunding, it's all about the backers and it's all about the numbers. So help me make this project through. Help me get Toolbox for Creativity out there to all the people looking for tools to develop better training and better workshops. So thank you very much, and until the next update. Bye.